Good morning, everyone. Pete here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Favorite Album of the Year. Today, we have arrived at 2008. We're steaming our way through the 2000s, heading towards our grand finale, 2019. Of course, we're not going to go all the way up to 2020 because by the time we get to 2019, we still have a good chunk of the year left. So we're going to end this whole series of 2019. It's been a fun ride. A lot of very good times revisiting some of these great catalog years. And I did get a couple of requests from a few folks who wanted me to pick at the end. All right. So when we get to 2019, to have that next day, which would have been 2020 if the year was done, for me to pick my 10 best decades of all these that we've covered. So I am going to do that. I'm going to pick my top 10 decades. All right. And reminisce about the 10 number one releases that I have spoken about during the last couple of months. So let's get back to 2008. So this was one of those years, once again, where I knew I had a clear-cut number one. It was not even a question for me. I was hugely into this album, big into this band as well. The runner-up was a little more difficult, and I decided to cheat a little bit today. I got a tie for runner-up today because I could not pick one over the other, and I wanted to give both of them some props because I just love both of these albums to death, and hard time choosing between the two of them. So let's get to my number one pick, my favorite of the year. Released May 30th, 2008 for Roadrunner Records. Produced by Jens Bogren and Michael Ackerfeldt. Of course, we're talking about Opeth's Watershed. Ghost Reveries and this I listened to a ton. This was to be the last album in Opeth's career where they would feature death metal elements. So if you really dug the death metal growls and the more punishing guitar attack, this really would be the last album where you would hear that. Okay, they've since moved on to much more progressive, 70s style progressive and folk and hard rock and psychedelic elements. Different sound, still Opeth. I dig both eras, so while it was an adjustment, getting used to the Opeth without death growls, I've been fully on board with everything they've done ever since. So it's great to kind of revisit the older albums, though, because, again, it's now been, 4 or 5, I'm trying to think, 1, 2, 3, 4 albums, right? Is it 4? 4 albums now since this. So they've kind of, they've kept kind of progressing in a different direction. But back to this album. Kick-ass release, featuring some absolutely tremendous tracks. It starts off with the kind of mellow Coil, which puts you into like a tranquil state before, boom, Heir Apparent hits you and just absolutely pulverizes you. Lots of keyboards on this album, in addition to the big hefty guitar riffs and the, really complex time signatures and all that. The Lotus Either, another fantastic track. You got Burden, Porcelain Heart, Hessian Peel, which is very cool. Hessian Peel, starting to see those kind of psychedelic elements coming in, and Hex Omega. All right, if you get the special edition, you got Derelict Hand, or Herds, you've got Bridge of Sighs, a cover of Robin Trower classic, as well as Den Standiga Rassan, a Marie Fredriksson cover. Good stuff here. But if you were someone who was listening to Ghost Reveries and Watershed at the time, you could hear the shift in sound, and you can hear a lot of the elements that would come up on subsequent albums from these guys. You could hear it all really start to happen here. This is an album that kind of got some, very loyal fans thinking wow, some little subtle shifts going on here. And then with the next album, of course, we would see them come to fruition. But still a fantastic album, which I still revisit quite a bit. It's my favorite of 2008. Now, how about those 2 runner-ups, right? So I said we got a tie here. So one is from a kick-ass progressive metal band who, up until now, this would be the last new recorded work we would see or hear from them. And from the other, it was a band who had been kind of dormant on the new release side for a while, all new material. And although they've been busy touring and, been busy in general, but a band that has been around for a long, long time, who came back with this album, and they've released a handful of them since, each one getting better and better and better. I'm talking about, first of all, Dark Deceiver by 0 Hour, kick-ass killer, complex, technical, progressive metal band. All right. And the other is Wake the Sleeper from Uriah Heep. Both of these albums are fantastic, both very different. Wake the Sleeper, quite hard rocking, tons of keyboards, kind of proggy. I'm of the opinion that the last handful of Uriah Heep albums rank up there pretty high with anything they've ever done. I think they're just firing on all cylinders, and if you look at their overall career, you've got those handful of early albums with David Byron, classics, drop-dead classics. I think they'll always be all of our real favorites, right? But then you got the John Lawton era and the 80s stuff and all that kind of stuff, as well as a bunch of 90s releases. But for my money, the last few Uriah Heep albums are right behind those classic Byron era albums. So if you kind of gave up on, stop listening to any new Uriah Heep, after 1980 or so, I'm telling you, go listen to Wake the Sleeper and all the ones leading up to the most recent one. You will not be disappointed. Killer stuff. Great Hammond organ, heavy guitar riffs, fantastic vocals, thought-provoking songs, lots of catchy melodies, a little bit of prog, a little bit of psych, lots of great hard rock, anthems aplenty, I'm telling you. And as for 0 Hour, from what I understand, they got a new album in the works, first time in a long time. This is a great album. You got Mr. Salinas on vocals here, who used to be with Power of Omens. Amazingly complex guitar and bass lines from the Tipton brothers. Just a fantastic album. So crushingly heavy. Some of the arrangements are just so dizzyingly complex, but yet it's very melodic and all makes sense. So there you have it. Opeth Watershed and 0 Hour, Dark Deceiver, and Uriah Heep, Wake the Sleeper. These are my winners for today. All right. Curious to see what you guys think. All right. Which ones you picked from this particular calendar year. You might be asking, Pete, what else did you have on your list? Let's see here. Also on my list, Meshuggah, Obzin, The Sword, Gods of the Earth, Testament, The Formation of Damnation, Whitesnake, Good to Be Bad, World Dane, Praises to the War Machine, Eson, Angel, Enslaved, Vertebrae, AC/DC, Black Ice, Between the Buried and Me, Colors Live, Arion, 01001101, Fish, 13 Star, and Cynic, Traced in Air. A lot of good ones from this calendar year. So there you have it. So visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Lots coming up today. Coming up in a little while, we've got Martin Popoff and I are going to be ranking we're doing like the Montrose catalog. But what we're doing is we're putting the Montrose band albums together with the Gamma albums, throwing them all in a blender and seeing what comes out. So that's coming up later this morning. Stephen Reed's coming on the show later this afternoon, so look forward to tonight. We got he's going to be ranking the studio catalog of the Wild Hearts. We're going to be doing our top 10 songs of the great Swedish band Europe, as well as ranking the albums of UK progressive metal veterans Threshold. So you don't want to miss any of that. Stay tuned. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.